Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Wealth Waves. My name is Sergio Davids with CM Trading, and today we're joined by Charlie Sharambus, head of IPs at CMTrading Partners. How are you doing, Charlie?
I'm very well, thank you, Sergio. How are you?
Awesome. I can't complain. It's springtime. There's a lot of things going on in the markets, but all in all, just I can see the finish line. Finally going to go on some much-deserved leave. I don't know about you.
I'm looking forward to Christmas, actually. With
Yeah.
what's happening in the world and everything, it would be good just to lock yourself up away with a bottle of wine or two or five and just
I'm so
eat
glad you
too
said
much
that
and
because you
enjoy
know
time
what?
with family.
I don't always enjoy Christmas and the end of the year, but this year especially, I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's just been a long year, and I think a
Yeah,
lot of people might echo that sentiment.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think it's the environment. I think
yeah.
if you look at the war now in Israel and Palestine, if you look at the war in Ukraine, if
Ukraine's
you look
still
at the
going on. Yeah,
if you look at the lack of leadership in the West, if you look at lots of different things, I
yeah.
think people are
Inflation.
just fed up with it.
Yeah,
People are just
yeah.
fed up
Just
with it.
fed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of being fed up, I
Okay.
thought we'd continue our series of top 10 reasons why businesses fail with the last five. So I'm not going to run through the previous ones. Our
Yep.
listeners can go through it, but I will list the upcoming five that we can talk about today. So
Okay.
they are number 6, not treating data as a key business asset. Number 7, failing to attract and keep talent. Number 8, not developing future skills. Number 9, failing to build strong partnerships and synergies. And lastly, number 10, lack of authenticity and transparency. So we'll begin at number 6 again. Not treating
Okay.
data as a key business asset. What are your thoughts?
What do they mean by data? What kind of? There's lots of different types of data.
So look, yeah, there's lots of different types. They've listed it as understanding customers, market
Okay.
trends, making smarter products, understanding who exactly your audience is. I mean, look, let's face it, data is, lifeblood of any successful company. And I mean, it's probably one of the most sold and most sought after,
100%.
metrics today.
Yeah.
But I mean, I worked, it's so often the case that we spoke about this before in our previous, but it's so
Mm.
often the case where you're in a company where you do things the way you're doing it because that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects of that, like I found through some of the companies I worked, is they don't have any data on what they're doing. So something as
Mm.
simple as who is your audience
Yeah.
is this ephemeral concept. They have it in their minds of who they're targeting, but they don't actually have any data to support it. So you're just flying blind.
Yeah. Yeah. Throw enough at the wall and see what
Yeah.
sticks, kind of approach.
How do you know what sticks? You don't have any
Yes.
data.
That's interesting. This data is a word that's come, and that's why I asked the question. The metas of this world, or Facebook, or whatever you want to call them, and the etc. How they use your data and they sell your data, as you say, to influence you into making decisions. Is I think beyond the line of what we're talking about, and I don't want to get involved in that conversation. So let's look at focusing on what you mentioned: is who's your customer?
Right.
All right. And there's two ways you can do this. All right. You can have an idea for a product, and then from that determine who your customer and what your customer's needs are, and as you say, throw enough out there and see what comes forward. I think the smarter way to do it is to ultimately have an idea for a product, then determine who your ideal customer is, okay, and what value your product would add to them, and what problem does it solve, and work backwards. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. You can have a product that makes you a dollar profit, and that's it per item. To make any money, you'd have to conquer China to make any decent money from that business. What do I mean by that? Because they've got 1 billion people. You need 1 billion people to buy if you're actually having a product that makes you $1 profit. Or alternatively, you can decide that your unique selling proposition is a valuable, expensive proposition, but solves the needs of corporates. And in which case, okay, you're now B2C. You're going out there and actually contacting your ideal customer. Might be a corporation that has a turnover in excess of $10 million. And therefore, you've got to reverse engineer your product or your idea in such a way that it's compelling to your target audience, that you don't have to sell the numbers enough to actually have a successful business. Do you understand what I mean? There are lots of organizations out there that probably have 20 clients, but those 20 clients are the lifeblood of that business because they've adapted their proposition to fit those customers rather than having a generic product that you sell to numbers. And I think, therefore, it's identifying which end of the market. And I'm not saying every product that you makes you $1 profit. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
Where are you playing? Who what does your ideal customer need in order for them to buy your product, and adjust your product accordingly, rather than designing a generic product that may fit a certain demographic, but you don't know who. So the most important question is, who's my ideal customer? And then approach those customers with a product that they want to buy. And the reason why they will buy it is because it solves their problem.
Solves a problem,
Solves a problem.
Moving on to number 8. This is a big one for me. Not developing future skills. And failing to attract and keep talent, which is actually kind of hand in hand with not developing future skills. But this is so important. Like you get this recruitment hell that most companies go through. They've got a position, trying to attract talent. They skim over the person who's right for the job. They get in somebody who matches an algorithm. This person leaves, the job stays open, and so on until, forever. I mean, other case studies where some positions have just been not filled for years.
Yeah.
Because of, a company doesn't focus on their needs, but rather an algorithm. And then even worse is they can't keep the talent that they've actually attracted.
Yeah.
Which is also bizarre. Why did you bother trying to hire someone to begin with? Well,
why can't they keep them?
I think it's because a lot of companies focus on recruitment rather than retrenchment. I mean, not retrenchment, retaining. Because there's no such thing as a retaining budget. Your salary that we gave you, that should be the status quo, forever. They don't think in terms of, wow, how can we keep this person happy, and not go to the competition? We don't think in those terms. We think in terms of, let's hire somebody new, and most likely that person will get a higher salary than the people we've got.
Yeah.
It's just such a bizarre thing for me.
Let me give you an analogy and let me explain what I mean by it then, and how can we fit it into the corporate. You know me by now, Sergio. I'll always look at sporting analogies.
Yeah.
And preferably, I always equate it back to my choice of sport, which is football.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got, a well-known academy. The well-known academies globally are Manchester City have got a fantastic academy. Chelsea have got a good academy. Ajax are notorious for having a great academy. And in other words, what I mean by a great academy, you put a talented youngster in that environment, they will develop and become potentially a high probability that they will become a top player playing in the appropriate leagues. So given the choice, by the way, these youngsters, unless they're exceptional, don't get paid a lot of money.
No.
They don't get paid a lot of money until they're 16, 17 years of age, but they join from the age of 10. So here's the thing. If you are a young player and you have two choices, you've got a choice of joining Manchester City and being on £100 a week, but you get your education, you get your schooling, you get everything else, but you're playing with the creme de la creme. Or you can go to a championship team, and play in a team that's prepared to pay you £500 a week, but your levels clearly are not going to be playing with players as good, and the environment is not going to be as focused as it would be at Manchester City. Okay,
Yeah.
what's better? Too many people are focusing, one's giving me 500 a week, as opposed to 100 a week.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. It's what motivates individuals is progress, development. Development gets them closer to their objectives, closer to their goals, which is playing for the first team. Okay? Money will come as soon as they hit that first team. But which environment's going to be conducive to you achieving that objective? Is it the money-driven one, which is second or third or fourth tier, which happens? Okay, or is it the environment of playing for the Manchester Cities of this world? Now let's look at it into business. Why do people leave? People leave because of a lack of culture and a lack of personal development within that organization. Therefore, they look at it as a CV.
If my company doesn't care about me, why should I care about my company?
It's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't care. It's purely driven to the organization itself. Okay. I could talk for ages about this very, very, very subject, and it probably relates to the other questions too. Let's look at the difference between leadership and management. They are two distinguishable between each other. A manager organizes tasks, okay, and ticks the boxes based on the tasks that are driven by the board, by the direction of the company, assuming it's got a direction. The job of a leader is one thing: to get his staff to buy into her vision. That's it, right? The leader's job is to give direction to the organization and to make sure that every individual within that organization knows precisely where they're going, and then identifying the standards required in order to achieve that objective. Now, if as an individual I join an organization where the culture is meritocratic, you get judged on your performance and rewarded on your performance. That's fundamental, by the way. Rewarded on your performance. If I can see that I can progress in order to hit my own objectives, if I can see that I'm constantly learning from those above me, okay, that will give me the value of their experience, because that's all it is, not because they're brighter, they're just more experienced, okay, and I know the organization's going somewhere, I can mentally see where I fit in to that. Because like anyone, going back to the sports analogy, if I join Manchester City because I want to make the first team and I want to win trophies, if I don't think I'm going to win trophies, I'm going to leave, because money then becomes important. If you're winning trophies, you don't leave. Okay, and it's exactly the same in an organization. The job of the leader is to clearly identify the culture within that organization, okay, and manage and get people to buy into it, and more importantly, perform and monitor performance and make sure that the objective, where they're going ultimately, is aligned with the individual's objective. It's the corporate objective is aligned to the individual objective, which is aligned to the team objective. And reward the type of behavior that you want to achieve your overall objective. And by the way, the opposite as well. Okay.
Yeah. If they're not performing,
yes,
don't reward mediocrity.
Yeah, if you reward mediocrity, as we said last week, that's all you'll ever get.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Microsoft. I read a book about Microsoft. Not that I like Bill Gates. That's another issue. But if you look at Microsoft, for example, I read a book about their culture 10 years ago. They promoted the top 10% and they fired the bottom 10% of all their programmers. Therefore, you couldn't get comfortable.
Look, as long as you maintain a high standard and that standard is consistent, I don't have an issue with that at all. You want top performers.
Standards.
Identifying and implementing. Moving on, funny enough, we covered the next point, but finally, lack of authenticity and transparency. What does that mean to you?
It's not important that I get on with my peers or my management or people, whatever. What's important is that they respect me based on my actions, and therefore they know that if they tell me something, or if I tell someone something, that's coming for the benefit of them and the organization. because we've
Right.
got that culture. Authenticity is, for me, is that if it's shit, tell me. If it's great, tell me. Don't just don't all of a sudden be smiley and my door. It's a classic quote. My door's always open. If you know you're going to get that comment made to you, you better be wary of what you say, because they will use what you say against you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is little from experience, but transparency is fundamental. It is fundamental, especially if you're working in an environment whereby a lot of your remuneration is rewarded by performance, i.e. commission or
Yeah.
what bonus or whatever you want to call it. Because at all stages, do not, be open and transparent about the business in terms for your top people, in terms of how profitable and what it costs the organization to make a profit. Because people in their own right know what's fair in terms of their own percentage of that ultimate performance and in terms of their own package. If it is that you've got individuals within your organization, so going back to the previous point, that are the drivers of your business, but they find out that they're receiving less than 1% of what it is that you're making as an organization, they're going to feel bad, and they might not stay. So, but if you're open and transparent about what you're doing, what the profitability of the business, and people believe that their package is fair and it is aligned with where the business needs to go, then they'll stay. And therefore it's not about this is what you're going to get. Explain why, and get people to buy into your vision. But at the same time, you've got to, within a certain extent, there are certain things that you don't want to tell your organization. So, for example, if the business is struggling financially, they'll probably know anyway, but you don't want to go into the details whereby you tell them,
Sure.
actually, I can't afford to pay you next week.
Sure,
Because
but just maintain a level of integrity.
yes,
Some
exactly.
companies are just that doesn't exist. You can't ask questions.
Yeah.
And I think on that note, we'll leave it there. I think for the next one, we'll focus on maybe one of these and sort of unpack, and go a bit more in detail, especially this last one about transparency and how that affects business. But like I said, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Charlie, for your awesome advice and insights, and I'll see you on the next one.